it's Shazma, and today we're going to make the best chocolate cake with strawberries and mascarpone cheese frosting. We're going to decorate this by covering it with rosettes. It's a very simple process but makes it very pretty. This is a very delicious cake, so let's get started. For the ingredients you will need 1 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 3/4 cup of white sugar, 3/4 cup of cocoa powder, 1 cup of coffee, 1/2 cup of milk, 1/2 cup of sour cream, 1/2 cup of oil, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and for the frosting and decoration you will need 1 3/4 cup of whipping cream, 2/3 cup of icing sugar, 1/3 cup of mascarpone cheese, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and some fresh strawberries. First, we're going to pass the dry ingredients through a sieve. I'm going to add in the cocoa powder, and you want to sieve the cocoa powder because it has lumps in it. I'm using a dark cocoa powder, the all-purpose flour, this is white granulated sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. Pass that all through, and this is also going to combine the dry ingredients for you. I'm going to get rid of the big lumps, give it a good mix. Next, we're going to mix together the wet ingredients. So in another bowl, I'm going to crack in 2 eggs. Pour in the oil. You can use any type of flavorless oil. The milk, freshly brewed coffee, and vanilla. Mix that until everything is combined. And then add in the sour cream. If you don't want to use sour cream, you could also just substitute this with some more milk, but the sour cream really packs in the moisture in this cake and makes it really nice and soft. And also mix that in. Then just add the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, and then just mix until there are no more dry bits of flour. Try not to overmix this because it will toughen up the cake batter, but you do want to get rid of all of those little lumps. This is my favorite chocolate cake recipe. It is super moist and soft. It's great for cake decorating, and it's also very simple to make. It's all done by hand. So this is all combined. You can see it's nice and runny. That means it's a very moist cake. I got rid of most of the lumps. It's okay, there are still a little bits left. Now we're ready to pour the cake batter into its cake tins. Today I'm using some very tiny 6-inch cake pans because I want this to be a very tall cake, but you can use 8-inch cake pans if you don't really care, and you can use whatever type of pans you like. I have lined the bottom of this pan with parchment paper because this is not a removable bottom, and I also greased it with some butter. So now we're just going to divide the cake batter into its cake pans evenly. And a little trick I like to use is to use an ice cream scoop to make sure that it's perfectly even. I have a standard size ice cream scoop here. It holds about 1/4 cup of cake batter. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm just going to take a scoop, and this just makes sure that the cake batter gets divided into its cake pans really nice and evenly. My batter has been evenly divided between the 2 cake pans, and now I'm just going to tap it on the counter a couple of times to release all the air bubbles. Now bake the cakes in the oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 50 to 55 minutes, or until you insert a toothpick into the center and it comes out clean. The cake has baked. I have let it cool down just so that I could touch it without burning myself, and I'm going to remove it from its cake pan so it could cool down completely. I'm going to use the offset spatula to just run it around the sides of the pan to loosen it from the cake, and we're just going to flip this onto a cooling rack. And it would be a lot easier if you had a removable bottom, but this is just fine. Peel off the parchment paper from the bottom. The cake has cooled completely, so now I'm going to level off the dome. I'm going to be using my cake leveler today, but you could also just use a serrated knife. I'm also going to cut each cake in half So to make 4 layers. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I prepared some fresh strawberries today, which I'm going to use as a filling. I already washed it and dried it completely. You really want to make sure that there's no extra liquid in the cake. I'm going to get rid of the stem of the strawberry and cut them into thick slices. Now we're ready to work on our frosting. Today we're making a mascarpone cheese frosting, but if you don't want to, you could also substitute this with cream cheese. I'm going to be using my stand mixer today. I have a whisk attachment. You could also use your hand mixer if you want to. I'm going to add in my mascarpone cheese and the vanilla. And we're just going to beat this until the mascarpone cheese starts becoming a little bit fluffy. This is now nice and creamy. I'm going to give the sides of the bowl a scrape. And we're going to add in the icing sugar. Once again, beat until it's nice and fluffy. I'm going to add in half of my cold heavy cream. It's going to look a little bit soupy at first, but just start slow until everything's nice and combined, and then whip on high speed until it forms peaks. This is just like my whipped cream cheese frosting. It's the same concept. You can see the frosting has formed peaks, so now I'm going to add in the rest of the heavy cream. And again, it's going to start off looking a bit soupy, but just keep beating it until it forms stiff peaks. The frosting has now formed stiff peaks. Do not overbeat this anymore. This is a very creamy recipe because there's the mascarpone cheese inside of it. So when we pipe this onto the cake, it wouldn't crack like a whipped cream would. So I'm just going to clean off the beater and we can start to assemble the cake. I'm going to decorate my cake on this turntable. It makes the decorating a lot easier, but you don't need this if you don't have one. So place on the base layer of cake. Add on an ice cream scoop full of the frosting. This makes sure that each layer is nice and even, so you don't have a thicker layer of frosting, because we have 3 layers here. This is going to be like a glue for the strawberries. Now arrange on a nice layer of the strawberries, and try not to push it all the way to the edges, because you don't want it squirting out of the cake. Press it down a little bit into the frosting so it stays in place. Now scoop on another scoop of frosting on top and just spread that out and cover the strawberries. This way it fills up those little gaps in between, and it also glues down the second layer of cake. Now this is why it's very important that there's not much moisture inside of the strawberries. Place on the second layer of cake. Make sure it's nice and centered. We're going to fill the gaps in the side with some more frosting. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to be piping over this. So don't worry if you could still see some more layers of cake. I'm just going to add random daubs of frosting, and then I'm going to smooth it out. I'm using a cake scraper to smooth out the sides of the cake, getting rid of the excess frosting. The cake is now ready, so we're going to place this into the fridge for it to chill for around half an hour so the frosting could firm up a little bit, so later on when we pipe onto it, it's not too wobbly. The cake is chilled in the fridge for around half an hour. It is now nice and stable and not wobbly at all. And if you didn't make such a tall cake, you don't have to chill it, you could just frost it right away. I loaded my frosting into a piping bag fitted with a when I'm started. You can use whatever type of tips you like. And we're going to pipe rosettes all over this cake. I filled the bag with a smaller star tip to fill in the holes that has not been covered with frosting. The cake has firmed up. I placed it into the fridge for around half an hour. So now I'm going to transfer it over to a pretty serving platter. That's how you make the best chocolate cake with strawberries and mascarpone cheese frosting. This is a very pretty cake that is impressive and perfect for pretty much any occasion, especially for birthdays because the candles would look really nice on a plain white cake, and it is also very delicious. You could change the color of the frosting and the fillings, so you could customize it however you like. And the chocolate cake is super moist, really soft, and very delicious. So I really hope you could try this out. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time. Bye!